Good evening. I'm Justin Chang, film critic at the Los Angeles Times, and I do apologize for the slight delay. We've had some technical issues this evening. Thank you for being patient and bearing with us. I do welcome you to this thrilling finale of the Ultimate Summer Movie Showdown, the LA Times series where you get to choose the greatest summer movies of all time. I just want to say it's been a joy going through this whole process with you, revisiting and voting on some of our favorite movies from the last 45 years of summer movie going. And that's how this project started, with theaters closed and major Hollywood releases being held back due to the COVID-19 pandemic. My Times colleagues and I asked ourselves, well, what if instead of having the worst summer movie season ever, we engaged with our readers and came up with the ultimate summer movie season? And so, for the past 16 weeks or so, we've been compiling some of the best and most memorable big movies from each week of release since 1975, the summer of Jaws. You've been voting on Twitter week after week, and you chose your 16 favorites. Let's look back at what you chose week by week. We've had The Avengers, Bridesmaids, Mad Max Fury Road, Alien, Finding Nemo, Jurassic Park, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jaws, Do the Right Thing, Back to the Future, Die Hard, Clueless, Mission Impossible, Fallout, The Fugitive, Stand By Me, and Apocalypse Now. We did, of course, have to pit all 16 movies against each other for one last round of polling, and we did come up with a champion. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But first off, let's look at our most recent two winners, the last two winners in the series. Your winner for week 15 was Stand By Me, Rob Reiner's 1986 drama based on Stephen King's 1982 novella, The Body. The movie starred Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, and Jerry O'Connell as four childhood friends who go on a camping trip that becomes the odyssey of their young lives. The movie became a coming-of-age touchstone, received an Academy Award nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay for writers Bruce A. Evans and Reynold Gideon. We will be joined by a very special guest from Stand By Me shortly. I will bring him on in a bit. Very exciting. But before we do that, let's talk briefly about our Week 16 winner. Your winner for Week 16 was Apocalypse Now, Francis Ford Coppola's 1979 Vietnam War epic starring Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall, Martin Sheen, among many others, of course, loosely inspired by Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Long considered one of the greatest and most influential and hallucinatory of war films, Apocalypse Now was written by Coppola and John Milius, who won the Palme d'Or at the 1979 Cannes Film Festival and went on to win Oscars for Best Cinematography and Best Sound. Was nominated for 8 Academy Awards overall, including Best Picture, Best Director for Francis Ford Coppola, and Best Supporting Actor for Robert Duvall. We could, of course, devote an entire 10 shows to the making and history and legacy of Apocalypse Now, but time is short, and we will not be doing that. Let us pull back, and I want to bring on actually the first of our special guests tonight, my colleague, entertainment columnist Glenn Whipp, who has been with me from the beginning. Glenn, welcome back to the Ultimate Summer Movie Showdown. Thanks for being here. Where are you zooming in from? From Santa Barbara, I understand, right?
I'm in Santa Barbara, about to begin my summer vacation because I haven't been outside all summer. I don't know about you, but it's summer's over, and like, where did the time go? I didn't venture outdoors because of these strange times. So I'm going to try to get a little sunshine in before Labor Day.
I'm glad you're getting some time off. I am actually headed for where you are right now as well next week, because yeah, it's been really funny. I feel like there have been no movies in theaters, and yet this has been the busiest summer movie season ever because of this showdown. So I am also in desperate need of some time off, but it's been fun. Yeah. Thank you. I just want to say for being on this journey with me, Glenn. We've been writing about these movies, most of which we've loved, not all of them, but a good chunk of them. And I know it's been quite a trip down memory lane for both of us. So yeah, thank you for taking the time to take that journey with me.
It's been a pleasure. I mean, one of the things that I've thought about was, we always talk about the Oscars, and let's expand our idea of what an awards movie is. And this series for me has kind of been, well, it's maybe expand our idea of what a summer movie is. And as we were doing this series, the past 16 weeks, the movie that kind of struck me as maybe my favorite summer movie ended up being Do the Right Thing, which you wouldn't
Yeah.
consider to be a summer movie, but it's hot out there. And I mean, does any movie get the heat like the summer heat and better than Do the Right Thing? And then just in terms of its quality and what it's speaking about, it maybe ended up being my favorite movie that we talked about this summer.
It's very true. It's kind of funny, this perception that I think some of our readers and voters have been giving me. It's almost as if summer movies are expected to be bad in a certain way. Obviously not. There have been some great movies in this series, and we're focusing on some of the best. But yeah, a critic's darling like Do the Right Thing seems to stick out in the field. And of course it does. It's a very unique film. It is like no other film in the series, and that's why it's so wonderful. And it is extraordinarily relevant and urgent. And people are not used to, I guess people think that summer movie implies you turn off your brain and it's popcorn. I mean, Do the Right Thing is not a popcorn movie in the sense that we think of popcorn movies for sure. And neither is, Apocalypse Now, which our last winner and a fittingly apocalyptic end to this series. A lot of people were chiming in saying, this is not a summer movie. And it's like, well, yeah. And I guess the definitions are a little bit arbitrary because we are, it just happens to be released in summer. But yeah. And of course, we got tons of notes letting us know that Die Hard is not a summer movie. It's a Christmas movie, which completely neglects our folks in the Southern Hemisphere. But yeah, there's been a lot. But the feedback has been fun. Yeah, so
feedback has been fun, and I mean, when we started this, I would have never guessed that Star Wars wouldn't make it to the finals, and no Star Wars movie made it to the finals, right?
Yeah. No, I mean. That, and I know that disappointed you, Glenn, deeply.
A little bit more than you. I mean, you seem to kind of relish it a little bit. And then it started, I mean, this whole series, I think, for you and I became like, kind of like what we feel sometimes when we vote for LA film critics. Let's maybe look beyond the obvious choices and get into some more interesting ones. And that's why, I mean, I think if you boil this whole thing down, Jaws is the ultimate summer movie. It has summer setting, it has the beach, it started this whole kind of tentpole, summer box office. It's Spielberg, it has all those elements. And yet, it ended up fading to Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is kind of appropriate in 2020 because summer movies have become less character-based, which I love about Jaws, and more theme park rides, and Raiders is a literal theme park ride. So probably good that it won, right? Appropriate.
Absolutely, I see that, and we can talk about that for sure. When we will do a full recap of the finals, and because very exciting, including a happy ending for Star Wars, I think. The happy ending that you were hoping for, Glenn. But first, I'm told we have our guest is ready, and I'm going to bring him in without further ado. I'd like to introduce our last special guest for the Ultimate Summer Movie Showdown, and that is Will Wheaton, an actor whom you may know as Wesley Crusher on Star Trek The Next Generation, and as Will Wheaton on The Big Bang Theory. He is a writer, a comedian, a game expert. He is many things. He wears many hats. And before all that, of course, he played young Gordy LaChance in Stand By Me, the role that launched his career. We are so very, very glad and grateful that he could be here for us this trip down memory lane. So, Will Wheaton, welcome to the Ultimate Summer Movie Showdown. Hello. Can you hear me, sir?
We had some extensive technical issues, and I am thrilled that we were able to overcome them. I'm also thrilled that you identified Die Hard correctly as a Christmas movie, and and expressed my confusion that Apocalypse Now was a summer movie. I would expect Apocalypse Now to come out during like Oscar season. Like it seems like Oscar bait. It just seems so odd for it to be sort of a summer movie. But by the definitions of all the films included, I think it's kind of an amazing, diverse group of movies. Like really surprising to me.
Thank you.
The readers shows well.
No, I was worried that, especially when the Avengers won the first week, that this would, is this going to be just a comic book movie overload? Not that there's anything wrong. Actually, no, there is something wrong with that. It would be. But fortunately, that first week was really front loaded with all the Marvel films. And then you got, interesting choices like Bridesmaids and Mad Max and Clueless, and and Do the Right Thing, as we were talking about. It just became a more diverse field, which is great. But I agree with you, Will, on Apocalypse Now, which and it's funny because it did, it premiered at Cannes, which is always in the summertime in May, and the circumstances of its arrival were of course so fraught, and that just the making of that movie is just so insane. But yeah, I know a lot of people were like, this is not a summer movie, but it's okay. Whatever. What do we know? We're expanding the definitions, but
well, I'm incredibly impressed by and inspired by the diversity of the films, and I'm really into that the readers and viewers of this entire sort of tournament, I guess,
yes.
have really gone outside of like, I too feel some disappointment that Star Wars isn't there. That was my first summer movie that I can remember in 1977. I was too young to see Jaws in the theater, but I watched the heck out of it on like cable TV when that was brand new. So for me, Star Wars invented the blockbuster summer movie. And it's interesting that Raiders made it and Star Wars didn't, because when I look back on those two experiences, Star Wars, I walked out of that movie like thinking, what did I just see? What is this world about? I walked out of Raiders of the Lost Ark going, how can I be Indiana Jones? Like I could do that. I could work real hard and I could be Indiana Jones. I'm not going to be Luke Skywalker, but I could work really hard and be Indiana Jones. And I think it's like, I wonder who else in the audience maybe makes a connection like that to the two films.
Glenn, any thought?
I don't know. I'm working. Furiosa comes to mind. I'm going to go out and drive a car really fast, which you can do now in LA. You can drive the
rush hour.
A Mad Max character.
All I can
Not that I'm encouraging.
All I can think about with driving movies right now is Unhinged, the new Russell Crowe movie, which I reviewed this week. So I guess a end of summer movie, but I would not want to emulate that character in any respect. So I guess that's really not applicable here. So, yeah. Well, I'm one of the reasons I'm glad you're joining us is, this series has been over the past 16 weeks, it's also been, of course, an amazing celebration of fan culture and fan favorites. A couple of Star Trek movies were in the running. The Secret of Nim was represented at one point in the series.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, you touched on this a little bit, but do you have any other particularly fond memories of going to movies in the summer as a kid, but also as an adult?
As an adult, I don't really go to the movies anymore. I don't particularly enjoy it. I have found, for the most part, audiences just not respecting the films in ways that I think are important. And I know that this makes me like an old man yelling at a cloud, but it really offends me when people are on their phones in the middle of a movie. You're not in your living room. Like, a movie theater should be sacred. And it should be it should really matter. So I'll go to special screenings. I'll go to midnight screenings, which is weird because the people who are there really want to be there. And they're super into the movies. But I remember as a kid and as a teenager, the anticipation that comes with waiting for the big summer movies to drop, and going to movies in May and in June to see the trailers for those movies that are going to come out in summer, standing in line in some cases for an entire day to get into a movie, all things that I would never do now. but I absolutely cherished doing as a kid. I saw Raiders at the Egyptian. I cannot think of a better place to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, talk about a movie feeling like a theme park ride. I walked out of that theater and I was like, "It's all real," and it was such a great experience for me. So this. This summer, what's different actually this summer is I'm seeing many more movies than I normally would because I can just get them on demand in my home. And I love that. I really love being in an audience. An audience really adds to a film. It's tough to watch a comedy with just my wife and me. It's much more fun in a big audience. And I would not want to see a Marvel movie by myself. Like I watched Captain Marvel in the theater and loved it, watched it at home, loved it, but it was not the same experience of just the cheering and when everybody in the audience gasps at the same time and that wonderful feeling that we are part of something special. I miss that this summer.
Yeah.
And I'll miss it until there's a vaccine and I feel like I can go into a theater again. But I'm glad that this series sort of shows that the power of these films endures over 40 years. And that's really great. Like I'm excited to see 40 years from now when we're looking back at the big movies from right now, to compare them to whatever, who even knows what we're going to be doing then.
Did Stand By Me, it came out at the end of the summer. Was it kind of marketed and promoted as a summer movie? Did it have the feel of a summer movie? Or did it kind of just like slip in at the end of summer?
I think it slipped in at the end of summer. It came out on August 8th, which just by coincidence is my wife's birthday. And she was 17 when Stand By Me came out, and she wanted to go and see Stand By Me on her birthday. So that's the only way I can actually remember the date that the movie came out. I recall that we were a limited release at first. We were released in Los Angeles, I want to say Chicago, I think Seattle and New York. I don't think we were released anywhere else. And we stayed in this limited release that was designed to like build word of mouth, because that's how it worked in 1986. And we did a slow rollout and then earned ourselves a wide release on Labor Day, which is when the movie takes place. So I remember Rob Reiner telling me, this movie's going to come out, like they held it for a year. We finished it in 85 and they held it for a year. And there were times where we thought this movie's not going to come out. And when they said that they were going to release it to coincide with the time that the movie takes place, that sort of like that end of summer, the beginning of fall. In the book that it comes from, different seasons. There's 4 stories. Each one represents a different season of the year, and this is called The Fall from Innocence. And I feel like Stand By Me is a really good transitional movie from the warm, hopeful days of summer to the quiet, reflective days of autumn.
They're going back to school. School's about to start at the movie, yeah.
Yeah, and it's about that moment in your life where you know that your life is going to diverge from the lives that you've been connected to for a really long time. You try to pretend that it's not going to happen, but you all know it's going to happen. And that's going to happen as soon as you go back to school and start, for our characters, we would have all been starting 9th grade.
I love that, and I love the fact that what you just said about the timing, and it really is lovely to end with Stand By Me. And I just wanted to ask too, just looking, this was kind of a happy surprise for us that this movie won, and I say that just not as a knock on the movie, absolutely, but just I think it crept up on, I think, voters in the way that it perhaps crept up on the audiences in the way you described. Sort of,
yeah, totally.
And the kind of the limited, the platform release, it was up. It beat Unforgiven, which is, it's also Unforgiven is another movie that kind of, I guess, sort of bucks the trend of what we think of as a summer movie because it's a prestige film as well. Yeah. But yeah, does it surprise you now just how beloved, how popular this movie still is? I mean, and you've gone on to do many other things, but do people all still want to talk about this movie in particular, I imagine?
So I've lived with the success of Stand By Me since 1986. And that the shadow that it crosses that it casts across my life and the pedestal that it lets me stand on have been incredibly meaningful in my life in really great ways and in not so great ways. And um, I'm not surprised that it endures. I think it endures because it's timeless. This is a movie about that moment in your life, and it is the story of these kids who are struggling to like figure out exactly who they are, and it's about that friendship that we have. You know, if we're lucky, we have that one really close friend that's going to be there forever. And in Gordy's case, it's Chris, and he loses him. Um, I think that one of the reasons this movie endures, and one of the reasons we made such an intimate and meaningful connection with audiences and have for over 30 years, is that Rob cast 4 young boys who were our characters. I remember asking him, I don't have any bad feelings towards Corey Feldman. He has been through a lot. He has had a rough life. And when I was 13, he was real hard to work with. And I really didn't like him. And I asked Rob, why did you cast this kid? He's such a pain in the ass. And Rob said there was no other kid out there who had the same anger and rage and hurt that Teddy had. And Corey has it. And when he said that to me, I started thinking about the 4 of us and what we had in common with our characters. How River was this kid who was so much smarter than his years. He had been forced through his family circumstances and through his life to really become a small adult. And there's this moment in the movie where Chris tells Gordy about how he stole the milk money from school and the teacher betrayed him, and he was having a hard time getting to the emotion of that scene. And Rob said, think about a time an adult let you down, when you relied on an adult to protect you and they didn't. And that performance is in the film. And I think about that often because I just think about what happened to him, who hurt him, and who didn't protect him, and what that must have been like for him. And for me, I really didn't want to be an actor. I really wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a storyteller. I loved to read. I loved to write stories. I loved to tell stories. My parents were forcing me to be an actor. And just like Gordy wanted his parents to see him, I wanted my parents to see me, and they weren't capable of that. The man who was my father was incredibly emotionally abusive to me, and was cruel and dismissive and implacable. And I I didn't even put it together until just a couple of years ago how much it landed on me as an actor and as a human when Gordy tells Chris, my dad hates me and I'm no good, because that's how I felt my entire life, because nothing I ever did was good enough for him. And that comes through in the performance in unconscious ways that I'm completely unaware of. Those aren't acting choices. That is a child who is abused, who's in pain, who is doing his best to please the adults around him and somehow survive the trauma that he's going through. And Rob managed to see all of that and then put his arms around me and love me and care for me and shepherd me through this difficult, challenging, incredibly emotional performance. And he coaxed a performance out of me that's going to outlive me. And for anyone who works in film to be able to say that is a tremendous privilege and an incredible gift. And I'm so grateful for it, and so grateful to be part of this film.
I mean, that is so interesting, you sharing those stories, because when I watched the movie again recently with my teenage son, I hadn't seen Stand By Me in probably decades. And what struck me about the movie, where I mean, so many great scenes, but it was those scenes between Gordy and Chris.
Yeah.
and the raw emotions and the power of those emotions and the pureness of the performances. It almost like startled me. I had forgotten about that, but there's like three scenes. You mentioned the milk bunny scene. There's Chris and his parents, or I'm sorry, Gordy and his parents, Chris and his parents too. But
Yeah.
and they took me aback. I didn't remember them. Maybe as I'm older now, I felt them in a different way. But I was just, and now you sharing those stories, I get it.
Because I've lived with this movie for my entire adult life, I've seen it a lot, and I've talked about it a lot, and I've analyzed it, and I can't ever watch it as like just a movie. Like there's always other things going on for me. There's two things that I think are interesting that I think you will enjoy. One is if you watch it again, look for all the times there are very long one take scenes where we don't go into coverage ever. And Rob was really proud of that. Rob was really proud of casting us and making it, creating that environment where we could perform as if we were in the theater. And I know Rob's favorite scene in the film is after we leave the junkyard and Teddy is crying and we're all walking down the road and there's this kind of awkward silence of us trying to figure out what's going on. And Jerry O'Connell starts to sing Have Gun With Travel. And it's so funny. And the timing is so perfect. And that's a oneer. That's a oneer. Like, it's amazing that Jerry pulled that timing off. And that defines who Jerry O'Connell is as a person. We are friends all these years later. And I love that we are both Star Trek alumni now, right? And I was just talking to him like last week, and he is still so funny and so irreverent and just so quick. And that doesn't surprise me at all. That he could be so great as Vern, because that was kind of Vern's archetype and Vern's role in the film. The other thing that I just wanted to highlight is what a kind and gentle and generous soul River Phoenix was. He was so wise. He seemed so much older than all of us, even though he was only a year or so older than me. But he seemed like he was an adult. He was always prepared. He knew his lines. He knew everyone's lines. He carried a video camera with him and shot all this behind the scenes footage. And he made movies in his free time. And he and his sister recorded music in their free time. River had the soul of an artist. And he was so gentle and kind. And we had a really special relationship. We had a really special friendship. He was the brother I always wanted and never got to have. And the film takes on extra weight for me when Chris fades away at the end, because it reminds me of losing River at 23 years old. And I just turned 48, and I look back at, I look at people who are 23 and I'm just like, oh, you babies, your life is just starting. Please, like, how could his life have ended so young? And like, then we who love film and we who love actors, we lost somebody really important. My generation lost an extremely important performer and a real important creative voice. And I will forever miss him.
Will, that's so beautiful. I wanted to bring in really fast. We had a question for you from one of our readers before the show, sent in saying, this is from a user on Twitter, Ting Yi To. River Phoenix would have turned 50 this Sunday. Does Will have a favorite memory of him or a favorite performance other than Stand By Me? I know you've shared some of that already, so it's fine if you don't. But I wanted, it's, as you said, you're 48 and he would have been 50 this Sunday. It's remarkable to think.
They made a music video for the song "Stand By Me" when the movie came out. I have no rhythm. I just don't. I am too self-conscious. I'm too anxious. I have no confidence. I absolutely cannot get up and dance. I can't do it. I feel like I'm in somebody else's body and they're all going to laugh at me. I'm like waiting for the pig's blood to fall on my head. It's awful. I hate it. But they wanted both of us to be in this music video with Benny King. And of course, I said yes. I didn't really have a choice. My parents were like, "You're going to do this," and we went to one of those studios, one of those little studios that's down kind of by Las Palmas. One of those studios that was built in the 19 teens. And the stage doors are like giant firehouse doors instead of soundproof doors. Like I love those buildings. There's so much history in them. And we went to work, and they're playing back the music, and they want us to like do some dancing stuff, and I just couldn't do it. And River was like, "You know what? I'll just take this guitar, and I'm gonna like strum on this guitar, and you just stand there and like snap your fingers." And he made it okay that I was terrible. He like made it all right for me to suck. And he took that guitar with him off the set while they were doing some work. And he was just strumming it and playing it. And Benny King came over and started singing while River played the guitar. And it became this room filled with song of River and his mom and me and Benny King. And I know there was at least one other person there. I don't remember who it was. A dude, I don't know, maybe somebody from the crew playing the harmonica. And I felt like I had been given access to something so special and so secret and so meaningful. And I don't think I've ever even talked about it. But that's a thing that would not have happened. That moment of us in the dressing room singing together and playing music together would not have happened without River's moment of kindness to me on the set. And that is, my heart breaks that he got to a place in his life where his addiction overtook him. It's awful. Because what I want people to know about him really is how kind he was, how he felt everything. The most empathetic person you will ever meet in your life. And like I said, I just miss him.
I remember reading about the stories about the making of the film. Of course, been circulating for many years, and just getting in scenes where River as Chris had to be emotional, and that was hard, but Rob Reiner directing him through that and getting him to a place where he just could not stop crying. It's hard. I mean, acting as a child is hard, and directing children is hard, but it sounds like once he had this very pure connection to that emotion, once he got there, he couldn't stop.
Yeah, it was hard for me to be in that scene with him, because I could see that he was experiencing real, actual, honest emotional pain. And I've been an actor for 41 years, and the body doesn't know the difference between real pain and I'm imagining pain so I can give a performance. That's hard as an adult, to place those demands upon a child, and for the child to meet them is a lot.
Yeah. I think we have one more question from a reader, actually. Let's go to that now, if it can come up on the screen, from Michelle. Will Wheaton, what memory stands out most about your experience filming Stand By Me? I know we've been talking about that.
So
it's hard, but so many, yeah. But
we could literally start watching the film right now, and I would pause it about every 90 seconds to tell a story about something in it. One of the things that really stands out for me is when we were in Bernie, California, filming the train trestle scene with the big terrifying steam train. And they built a dolly to run on the tracks that was the same gauge as a train, and it was very heavy. And the camera crew would be on this dolly, and Jerry and I were, so the camera's here, Jerry and I are back here. We're running towards the camera's pulling back and tracking with us. And we weren't on the bridge, we were on the ground. The train was behind us, but it was very far away. And we weren't in any danger. And we were acting scared, but we weren't really scared. And Rob could see us acting. And he wasn't getting the performance that the scene demanded, because Jerry and I were just too young to understand how to get there, right? Mm-hmm. So Rob says, "God damn it." Rob never cursed. "It's hot. I'm hot. The crew's hot. These men are tired. They have to keep doing this shot over and over again because you're not scared. If you're not scared of that train, be scared of me." Jerry and I burst into tears. Oh my God, we made Rob mad. We let Rob down. We're the worst. We began sobbing. And Rob, the next take is the take that's in the movie. Rob says, "Roll the cameras, get them back to one. Let's go." And then afterwards hugged us and told us that he loved us and told us that that he was so proud of us and that we did such a great job. But I'll never forget that. I was, it's funny, like, you know, I grew up in a kind of a crappy household, and my dad yelled at me so much I never paid attention to it. It just became noise that I didn't respect. Rob was so kind and quiet and gentle that the one time he raised his voice to us, it was catastrophic. And I remember it 30 plus years later, like it just happened.
It's incredible. And it's just a question about Rob too. I know he was fairly new as a director. I mean, he had done Spinal Tap, he'd done The Sure Thing, and I know originally Adrian Lyne was supposed to direct the film and had to step away because he was too overworked. And so it shows a lot of just, you know, confidence on Rob Reiner's part that he was able to, you know, because, you know, it's capturing intimate moments with children. As we've been saying, it is not the easiest thing to do, and yet so many of the best moments in the film come off as so natural. And even when he had to blow his top to elicit them, as you were saying,
I can't imagine anyone else directing this film. I just can't. I don't know how this experience could be. I just don't think the performances would have been the same.
Yeah. What would an Adrian Lyne version of Stand By Me look like?
I have no idea. The train trestle wouldn't be nearly as believable.
You tell us about just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, you just revealed something, Justin, that I had never heard, a little Stand By Me factoid.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that was true. And I'm just like, my mind is trying to wrap itself around an Adrian Lyne Stand By Me, and it's going to take some time.
That piece of information makes me thirsty for one of those great deep dive oral histories of Stand By Me, where a journalist talks to all of us and talks to the crew and goes to the location and does a whole big deep dive into it. Because like Sean Astin is a good friend of mine, and when Sean booked Lord of the Rings, I told him how envious I was. And he was like, "Shut up, you booked Stand By Me. You don't ever get to complain about any movie that I'm in that you're not in," because I wanted Stan to be in Stand By Me so much. And I know there's other stories like that. I know because Rob saw everybody. The apocryphal story is that he saw every young working actor in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. And we were the 4 that were selected.
And I know that there is this event, this annual Stand By Me Day event,
yes,
in Brownsville, Oregon, which is one of the locations used in the movie. And they have like a pie eating contest, of course, and they, you know, how could you not? I believe, did you attend one of these? Have you gone once, more than once? Okay.
It's unfortunately never worked out with my schedule for me to go up there and be there, but I am a massive supporter. I absolutely love that they do this. I encourage everyone who is a fan of Stand By Me to make the road trip to Brownsville. It's so worth it. It's such a beautiful little town, and Eugene is such a neat little city. And it's such a beautiful part of Oregon. And the Chamber of Commerce and all of the merchants and people who live in Brownsville have done a remarkable job preserving the pieces of Stand By Me history that exist up there. You can get a little self-guided walking tour of the city where you can go to our locations and recreate them. I just saw this last week, and Jerry put it on his Instagram, and I put it on my Facebook. There's a woman who was on Humans of New York. She collects American Girl dolls, and she got 4 American Girl dolls and dressed them to look like us, and then went to Brownsville and photographed them using long lenses and using trick photography to recreate some scenes from the movie. It is breathtaking. It is one of the most amazing things I have ever seen. And if you're a fan of the movie, my Facebook is It's Will Wheaton. If you go to my Facebook and scroll down like a couple of pages, you can see a link to her Flickr that just has all of these pictures, and it's really beautiful. I'm just thinking about that and thinking about the people in Brownsville who have kept Stand By Me alive all these years, and the people who make that pilgrimage. They told me that people come from all over the world all year round to go and visit our locations. It just makes me grateful, and it reminds me of what an incredible privilege it is to have been part of this movie that means so much to so many people.
We're going to get to the next part of the program shortly, but before I do that, and Will, I wanted to ask you. You're a writer, you're an actor, you've done a lot of different things, and I wanted to ask this based on The Secret of Nim, which we put in 1 week. It was, I can't remember which week it was released, and I remember loving that movie as a kid, and I don't know what to ask about it. Just can you talk about that? Because that was even pre Stand By Me, and
for sure.
And just I'm just curious if you could talk about that.
Yeah, I sure can. That was my very first voiceover job. I was only 8 years old, and I want to say that the audition was down in like Culver City somewhere, and I went into the studio, and Don Bluth was in there, and he was directing me, and I did the audition, and he said, "Can you come to work tomorrow?" And I said, "I have to ask my mom." And he said, "Okay, please do that." So I went out, and my mom was like, "Okay, let's go." We started walking to the car, and I said, "The man in there wants to know if I can work tomorrow," because I booked the job like in the room. And I didn't know what that means. I was a little boy, I was a baby. And I remember my mom stopping, going, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, he said he wants me to come do this tomorrow." And we had to go back in so she could like find out if it was real, because we were gonna have to take me out of school, and there was gonna be all, there was a whole thing that had to happen. Then once I booked that job, most of my scenes were with Shannon Doherty, who was delightful. She was older than me, and I just remember her as being kind of like a human smile. She was a really sweet kid. And then I had all these scenes with Dom DeLuise, who was one of the funniest people I had ever been around my entire life. I knew who he was. I thought The Cannonball Run was like, no movie was ever going to be as great as The Cannonball Run. Like, they had made the perfect film. Why did anyone even try to keep making movies? Like, that movie had everything you could ever need. And I was beside myself to be working with him. And what I remember about him is how unbelievably funny he was, and how gentle and kind he was with us kids. You'll hear me say this a lot. Kindness, gentleness, and empathy goes such a long way with me, especially right now in America, where we don't see that on full public display as much as I think we could. To have those experiences with these people who I respected and admired when I was young, it really shaped who I am as a person. And that came from Star Trek too. The cast of Star Trek raised me in a way that my parents just chose not to. And they were like very, very much this family that just inspired me and guided me and held me accountable. And as much as I never really wanted to be an actor, I'm really grateful I grew up around actors and artists, because I learned empathy and kindness and compassion, and to appreciate art and to be gentle. And I don't think I ever would have gotten those things without it.
that's a really nice thing to hear, and it's not we also something we don't hear a lot of. And I wanted to. It's maybe an awkward segue, but we have to bring up quickly the Big Bang Theory. Where it's such an unusual thing to be playing a version of yourself and riffing on yourself in a very self-effacing kind of way. And I think it speaks to, you seem to have a really healthy attitude, I think, about the industry and a certain distance from it to be able to even stand outside yourself to be able to do that. You just talk about how that came about, and just I think it's a very special thing.
Thank you. It took me 10 seasons of playing that Will Wheaton 4 to 6 times a season to finally achieve the emotional separation from that character that I wish I had had from the very beginning. It is weird to play a character who is me. It's bizarre because he's not me, but he looks like me. He has a very similar biography and the same name. And it took me a really long time to get comfortable with the reality that what I do and what that Will Wheaton does have nothing in common. Like whatever he does, that's him, written for him by the great writers of the Big Bang Theory. That's not who I am. So like, I never felt weird about doing anything. I never felt weird about, like, I was in on the joke. So I never felt weird about those times where Sheldon was and Will Wheaton were enemies. And then once they became friends, it opened up this whole incredible story arc for that character that I played. Like he became this wonderful ally and this mentor to them. And like that was so unexpected. And it all came out of me telling one of the writers, Steve Milaro, who's the co-creator of Young Sheldon, who was and was a showrunner on Big Bang Theory for a while, but he was a staff writer when I was just talking with him on Twitter. And he said, "Hey, I'm a writer on the Big Bang Theory. I saw you like the show. If you ever want to come to the set, just let me know." And I was like, "Oh man, I would love that." And he tells me that he went from that conversation to the writer's room where they were looking for a nemesis for Sheldon. And he pitched me to them. And Bill Prady called me and asked me if I would do it. Would I play a delightfully evil version of myself? And initially, I was reluctant because I thought playing myself was cheating. I thought that playing myself was like not like that's not being a character. That's not being an actor. I want to be a character like Leslie Winkle. And I said that. And Bill said, "Well, listen, I will bring you in whenever we're auditioning actors who fit your demo, but you're the only person who can play you. And I really want to cast you right now." And I called my friend John Rogers, who's the co-creator of Leverage and a really successful and respected writer in his own right. And I related that story to him. And Rogers goes, string of expletives, "You get back on the phone and tell Prady yes, or we're not friends anymore." So I called him back and I said yes. And from the very first table read, from the first time I crossed the threshold into stage 25, they made me feel like I was part of their family. They made me feel like I was a regular on that call sheet, like I had been there from day one. And every time I went back, they made me feel like I had not spent a minute away from the set. And I loved that. I love them. I love that show. I'm so proud and grateful of the work that I did on it. It's cool. I'm really lucky. I'm really, really lucky to have in my body of work Stand By Me, Star Trek, and The Big Bang Theory. And that's not even talking about things that I've done like Tabletop and The Ready Room that I'm super, super proud of that are well known within their niches. But like The Big Bang Theory is the most popular series in the English speaking world. Like, that's crazy that I got to be on that and I got to be on Star Trek. Like, that's bananas. So like, I have this distance from it because honestly, everything is a gift. Every opportunity I have is a gift because what I really want to do is write and host. That's all I want to do. If that's all I get to do, I'm so, so, so happy. Like, that's the life that I want. And when I occasionally get to be an actor, even though it's not my passion, I have the privilege of working with great people and great material on really special programs. And I don't know how I got that, but I'm real grateful for it.
We are as well. And what are you working on at the moment? And I know it's a very strange time right now with the pandemic and everything, but yeah, what's keeping you busy?
I wish I could tell you. Um, I had 2 meetings yesterday and 2 meetings today for 4 projects that are freaking amazing that I'm not allowed to talk about. The one thing I can tell you about that's coming up that I'm really excited about is that I'm the global brand ambassador for Bicycle, the playing card company. They put out a line of tabletop games, and I'm the tabletop game ambassador. And like, all I really want people to do is play more games. That's why I say it at the end of every episode of Tabletop. And now I'm getting to form a relationship with a company that already has such a great market footprint in the gaming space and in the mainstream gaming space. And we're bringing tabletop gaming, hobby style gaming, from like strategy games to party games to that world. I'm really, really excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun, just because I miss doing tabletop, and this is going to give me an opportunity to have a strong relationship with the gaming community again, and I've really missed that.
Your enthusiasm is coming through. You're going to be a great ambassador, man.
Thanks a lot. Oh, and I just signed a contract to read the audiobook of Ready Player 2. So that's a really exciting thing that I'm really, really looking forward to. Just because of this is not because of me, it's because of the timing. When they did their inaugural audiobook bestseller list, I was the #1 narrator on the debut list. And I get to carry that around like a parasol for the rest of my life, even though it was totally just because of the timing. But like, that's one of those things where I'm like, if I'm ever feeling like kind of like a piece of crap about something, I'm like, there's not a lot of people who get to say they were #1 at the very beginning. So I'm fingers crossed extra hard for a repeat.
That's great.
That's fantastic. So happy things are going well. And
Thanks.
we are moving on. Speaking of games, this has been quite a game, quite a tournament indeed, over the past 16 weeks and change. And Will, you being a summer movie enthusiast, I'm going to keep you around, if you don't mind, as we go through this very quick recap of the final most exciting week yet of the.
Oh, cool! I'm glad I get to be here.
Yeah, if you don't mind, this won't take terribly long, but we will run through because this has been the moment it's all been building towards. So,
yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself when this is over, but here, let's take a quick look first at our runners-up poll. This was a little bit of a freebie for our voters. All the second place finishers, we pitted them against each other in basically a 16 film tournament for 17th place, I guess you could say. So it was Spider-Man, The Fifth Element, The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, E.T., The Lion King, Blade Runner, WALL-E, T2, When Harry Met Sally, Aliens, Caddyshack, The Iron Giant, Unforgiven, and Inglourious Bastards. Oh my God, Inglourious is spelled wrong, which means it's spelled right. Sorry. So you voted, and your top 2 finalists were The Empire Strikes Back and E.T. I mean, I don't know what you do with these two. It's really hard, but you voted and you did pick The Empire Strikes Back. So that is our runner-up. That is our 17th place champion in the Ultimate Summer Movie Showdown. Glenn, you get your Star Wars.
Baby Yoda looks really old in that picture. Yeah, I got my Star Wars. I mean, I'll ask you, Will, do you think the right Star Wars movie ended up winning? Because I'm still kind of OG Star Wars first movie. I know the second movie is like better probably, but Alec Guinness, the original, carries some weight.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back is my personal favorite Star Wars movie. My Star Wars movies go Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, Rogue One, everything else. And everything else is tied for 4th place. Except for the prequels, they don't count. The purist in me really wants Star Wars there for the historical reasons, for like the part of me that's kind of an academic wants Star Wars there, but the part of me that's emotional, like Empire is my favorite of all the Star Wars movies. It's so good. I love it so much that like I was also 11 when it came out. So like I was the target audience. Like that movie landed on me so hard. Yeah, I'm okay with it.
But I think that explains it. I think you were 11 when it came out. I was 13 when Star Wars came out. So I think a lot of it just depends on how old you were when these summer movies hit.
So by the time Jedi came out, you were probably like outgrowing as the movies became more childish, right? Like they got more,
a little bit.
Because I was at the extreme outside edge of like, I will accept the Ewoks. Like, I was like, it's barely okay, you know? As I got older, I wouldn't admit that there was a minute where I was like, no, I think they're kind of cool. Their song's fun. I like to sing it, you know? So yeah, I totally get how with being a little older, that it came along at a different point. I think that actually probably stands for a lot of summer movies too. That it just happens to be like when it's like, what's your favorite album? Like what's your favorite Beatles album? What's your favorite Depeche Mode album? What's your favorite Pixies album? Like it kind of depends on what age I was when they sort of came out.
Okay, rein in the Star Wars geekery, Justin. Move on.
No. It's funny. I was just going to say, I wasn't exactly sure what the outcome would be because we did put Star Wars against Empire, and Empire won by I think like 60-30. It was like really not that close, and nobody complained. So I mean, I'm sure some people, I think people respect the choice, So, and I think it's a very I'm glad it's in there too. This is great, guys. Congratulations to The Empire Strikes Back. And now let's look at the grand finale of the Ultimate Summer Movie Showdown. Got some cheesy music going. We took all 16 winning films chosen by voters, pitted them against each other in a final round of Twitter polls to determine the ultimate summer movie. Here we go. This is how the voting went in round one. Absolute carnage. At the end, only 8 films left standing. It was Jaws, Alien, Do the Right Thing, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future, Mad Max, Fury Road, Jurassic Park, and Clueless. Then the quarterfinal round. Jaws takes out Clueless, Raiders takes out Mad Max. Alien and Do the Right Thing narrowly prevail over Jurassic Park and Back to the Future. Some quibbled with those choices. I was pleased, though. And then the absolute upset, Jaws, which has been, the ultimate summer movie all along, loses to Raiders of the Lost Ark in a stunning Spielberg over Spielberg upset. Alien defeats Do the Right Thing. And so Raiders of the Lost Ark and Alien, 2 franchise originators, go head-to-head. What do you think? Well, you guys know. We know the answer. No spoilers here. The winner is Raiders of the Lost Ark, Steven Spielberg's 1981 Indiana Jones original starring Harrison Ford. That is your winner of the Ultimate Summer Movie Showdown. A surprising outcome, I think, a satisfying one. And I know we've talked about this a little bit already earlier in the show, in sort of like what this movie kind of represents as like the movie that you, as you were saying, Will, that you could perhaps see yourself in, unlike something a little more fantastical. So I think that speaks to how just kind of immediate and accessible this movie is and why it's still close to people's hearts. I also think that just, it's interesting it be 2 horror films in terms of Alien and Jaws. And I think there's something, maybe just that a little bit more escapist pleasure that you get from this movie. I don't know. I mean, I voted for Alien, so, what can I have, that's my, although I don't think there's a bad choice in these 3, but what do you guys think?
I sort of love that that Raiders was inspired by the movie serials, and that it has that kind of energy. Like that seems to be sort of its North Star. And I expect that there is a similar motivation that gets you into the theater between a summer movie and an old-timey movie serial, back in the 20s and 30s. I think it draws the same audience and the same level of anticipation and excitement. So I feel like Raiders kind of had this like secret weapon baked in that maybe none of its competitors had an opportunity to get. But I love both of those movies. I mean, I love all of those. It's funny that we were up against Back to the Future because we all went to see Back to the Future when Stand By Me came out. And we were so excited that they went to the 50s because our movie was in the 50s.
That was part of the thematic linkage, and no, I mean it's a tough movie to beat. No, but in consecutive years,
deserve to lose. We 100% deserve to lose. I'm totally okay with that.
I voted for Stand By Me, just so you know.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you to everyone who voted for Stand By Me. But I think the right movie won.
I mean, it did feel inevitable, right, that a Spielberg movie would win this showdown. I mean, I don't think it was the right one, but I mean, I love Raiders. I mean, you can't quibble, but you can't, take the torch and pitchfork out.
Are you able to choose between? This is an unfair question to put to you guys, but you have to choose Raiders or E.T.
E.T.
Oh, I'm squarely E.T. Yeah, I mean, for me, the Spielberg summer movie thing would be Jaws, E.T., Raiders.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It is a little bit odd that E.T. didn't make it in, and they actually lost to Jurassic Park. Interestingly enough, that was another Spielberg versus Spielberg week, and it seemed whenever Spielberg was in the running, it seemed that he could only be defeated by himself. I mean, that was so, we have a Ridley Scott movie in the mix, we have a Rob Reiner movie in the mix, we have, but, Spielberg was, of course, the only one who had 3 films that finished, that came in number 1. And Harrison Ford, I think, is one of the only actors who had multiple films too, with Raiders and with The Fugitive. So if you think about it in those terms, just the spread, I guess, of talented, Raiders winning kind of, as if we're looking at the Venn diagram, as it were, it kind of makes a little bit more sense. I don't know. But.
So if we're doing a heist to put together the ultimate summer blockbuster film, we're going to kidnap Spielberg, we're going to kidnap Harrison Ford. I don't know what I'm
Let me ask one more question, because Justin mentioned a Rob Reiner film. How old were you, Will, when you first saw and appreciated This Is Spinal Tap?
I saw This Is Spinal Tap. I rented it on Betamax during production of Stand By Me. So I was either 12 or 13, depending on if it was before or after my birthday during production when we saw it. And I loved that movie so much. It was my introduction to improvisational comedy. And I watched it in my hotel room. And I remember my mom, who was on location with me, had her hotel room, and she was coming through the connecting door and looking. And after I'd been watching the movie for close to 45 or 50 minutes, she came in and she said, "I can't believe I don't remember this band." Like, she was convinced that it was a real thing. But I absolutely appreciated it. I absolutely loved it. Even at that age, like I hadn't gotten into punk rock yet. That wasn't going to come until I was probably 14 or 15, but I was really into metal. I thought metal was great. Judas Priest and Motley Crue and Iron Maiden. Like I was crazy about Maiden. And Spinal Tap really spoke to that. And like, I felt like as a very worldly 12 and 13-year-old, I saw through the spectacle of Kiss, and I saw them as the untalented hacks they are. And I saw a lot of that happening in Spinal Tap, and I was like, I get this joke that's intended for grown-ups. I'm very mature.
We will have to, when was Spinal Tap released? Not year, but even month. I can't even, clearly not a, I don't know.
79, right?
It was. March 2nd, 1984. I was just doing a little.
Oh, 84. I'm way off. Okay.
Just brainstorming the ultimate spring movie, Showdown, whatever. It's not quite the same thing, but we got to keep this going. But And we are approaching the end of our time. And so I just want to thank you both for being here. Glenn, thank you. Will Wheaton, you've been such a delight to have. And it's very fitting that Stand By Me came at the end and that you came at the end to talk about and to look back at this whole series with us. This has been really special. Thank you for being so generous with your time and with your insights and your memories. It's really been very special. So thank you so much.
It's been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed talking with both of you very, very much. And thanks for doing this. It's super, super cool. And to everybody who voted for Stand By Me, thanks.
Thank you,
I
indeed.
love your kindness and enthusiasm. Keep it going. We need that, man.
I'm doing the best I can, man. Like one of the things that my personal North Star is be the person I need in the world. I don't know if you've been out there, but it's not great right now. And I'm trying so hard to be the person I need. I need kindness and I need gentleness. That's what I need in the world right now. And I'm trying to lead by example. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm just doing my best not to suck.
That's what we're all trying to do. So let's keep trying. And thank you all. And thank you to our readers and viewers who've been following along this 16-week journey. You guys have made it really worthwhile. So thank you all and good night.
All right.